This is the Van Cave, and this is the fencing episode. And you're already fencing, right?
Yeah.
And we're
Yeah,
gonna-
I'm trying to remember how
This
the
is-
fence here.
yeah. All right. So-
Oh,
hey, check it out. All right. It's not saber till somebody hits the ceiling, man. This is good.
that's how sabers roll.
Yeah.
I remember that was the biggest problem we had in our rental place. It was they made us use that smaller room.
Oh,
Didn't have
yeah,
a really
yeah,
high
yeah.
ceiling.
Oh,
And we were cutting all the saber guys were like slashing overhead, and we had all that stuff. So, welcome to the Van Cave. If all goes well, this should be what are we, episode 4?
Yeah, this is
So we're in
before.
there.
look.
Right on.
Nice sound effects.
That's why we brought this
Uh-oh.
guy in.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
So
There's
today,
too much head on this.
that's what she said. So, man, that's the first. That's what she said.
It is,
in the
isn't it?
history of the
Yeah.
Van Cave. This is pretty good. So today we have everybody remembers Mike Montalvo from the last episode, and we're now introducing fencer, blogger, amazing culinary artist, all around swell guy, Eric Keitel.
How's it going, everybody?
Good dude. Eric calls me up or messaged me and said, "Hey man, if you want to do fencing or any of these other topics, I'd be glad to and bring food." And he said, "I'll bring food." And I go, "You're on the next episode. We're gonna cover fencing." And in honor, what are we? Chinese Lunar New Year?
No, it's Lunar New Year right now. The 5th of February.
Okay, cool.
Year of the pig.
Year of the pig. We had this conversation at work today. I'm Year of the dog.
I have no idea.
No, none.
What year
Okay.
were you born?
I don't know if I want to say. No, it's 86.
86. I don't
think
know that
it's
one.
like
That's
tiger.
probably
rabbit or
tiger.
something.
I
Is it?
think so. Yeah,
I
I was
can't
the year of the
remember.
rat. So
Right on. Yeah, I was Year of the dog, 1970. So Corona premiere, it's not bad. It's okay.
nope. Once you get past the head, it's just fine.
I'm not
That's
going to do
pretty
2
good.
in one episode. So I'm drinking. This is a weird selection. It's Frio Light, and I'll tell you the interesting thing about this. Tim and I ran across this at a show one time. There's a bunch of this. It was bought out of curiosity,
Mhm.
and I tasted it, and it was horrible. And Tim tasted it, being a brewer. He said, "Oh, that's because blah blah insert chemistry, brewing procedure, other crap I don't care about." He said it will mellow. He goes, put it away for about a month. So what I do is I buy some of this, and I think it only comes in 30 packs. I think it's made by the Coors people. It's one of those that's supposedly crafted for a region, West Texas. And I'll get a case of it, put it on the sailboat, and just let it sit. And there's some at the honey cabin, and I keep some out in the shop. And after it's been there about a month, pull it out. It's not bad. So it's low alcohol. I call it hydration beer because you can be on the boat or whatever. So here we go, guys.
Just my normal ginger ale.
Of course, Mike and his ginger ale.
Was it ginger ale? So I've watched
Yep.
2 episodes, and then I'm about a third of the way through the 3rd episode, and so I wasn't sure. I thought it was hard cider.
No, it's just ginger ale.
Yeah, he's done them, and I didn't turn off my phone, guys. Sorry. So, yeah, we've done the mics. My wife likes that, the hard mics.
Oh,
Or
yeah,
no,
yeah,
no, no,
yeah.
no, no. Not your father.
Angry
Sounded like you had
Orchard.
one, or an
Yeah.
Angry Orchard. Yeah, not bad. So, man, the movie episode, I have gotten a lot of feedback on that. Everybody loved the crappy movie episode.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun to do.
As I was watching it, I have to say that I was like, "Oh, there are a couple of movies that I know that tried to be really good but ended up absolutely terrible." And I have yet to find out if any of them have made the list because I got as far as what Hangar 18 was, and then I
We'll
was like,
send
"Oh, I
them
have to
over
go."
because we're always looking, and apparently Tommy Wiseau has a shark movie
Yes.
coming out, so we're gonna
Big shark. I just found out about this today.
we're gonna be all over that. A little housekeeping news: the channels continue to do better than expected. Thanks to you guys, thanks to the viewers. You guys are all awesome. We've had a blast doing this. And the only news we got, we're talking about the audio only side of it. I'm trying to make some decisions on that. It's not being hit very heavily. I don't know if that counts or discounts iTunes or not. So we're probably only going to run the most current episode on that until we sort of see how things go, figure how much money I'm going to spend, because we'll get like 2% of the hits on that, and I can't find the analytics to tell if people are just pecking at it and not listening. So we'll find out, but that's what we got. So we're going to talk about we promised you in the first episode, weird sport. So here comes a weird sport. It's definitely weird around here, which is fencing. And right up front, this is the modern Olympic style fencing. This isn't Renaissance fair fencing. This isn't the Nerf Knights, the amp guard guys you see in the park. This is the modern Olympic sport. It came to Midland in 1982 or so. And it was 4 guys, one of which had fenced in the Olympics for Panama. All of them were fencers in college. And one was a teacher, geologist, guy that worked in city planning, stuff like that. Somehow they all found each other, much like us, and go, hey, I know this guy that fenced, I know this guy that fenced. And they formed a club. And to compete, you have to have a name, you have to have a letter designation and all that. One of the guys early in the club worked for Bell Telephone Company, and they were allowed to use a shop. So they fenced in like an open shop. There was a drive-through shop. They had open 2 bay doors, and they would go in and they would work out in there. And so they took, I'll put it up on the graphic, the logo on the patch is actually the old upside down. It's the Bell Telephone logo turned upside down, so it kind of looks like a shield.
Oh, okay.
And Bell, B-L-L-E in French means beautiful. So we're all beautiful, and so it's an aptly named club. And the club rocked along up until the 90s. The first economic crunch hit, and it sort of scattered. And a few of us got together here and there. I was at the sheriff's office for years, and I was on patrol in weird shifts and nothing else. And in 2005-ish, I became a detective. So that meant banker's hours, 8 to 5. I found a couple of the other guys from the old club, and we started up. And so here we are. And started competing again and running classes, and then we picked you up in a class, right?
Yeah, I think it was around 2014 or somewhere around in there.
Yeah, 13, 14, something like that.
Really? That's when you started?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I should be better than I am, but...
Was that a compliment? I was, yeah. And then not too long after you came in, we picked you up, but you were already fencing, so tell us about how you got here.
Yeah, so I got here down in 2012. That's why I was kind of shocked to hear that you had started in 2013 and 14, because I had been fencing I had just come from Michigan, and I had been fencing for about a full year, a solid year, but I had been going like every single day. It was kind of my escape from regular work and just life in general. And funny you should mention that you started fencing in a shop. The Sal that I was fencing in was actually converted from a shop like to a fencing place.
Right on.
That's
cool.
You know, they had just built up the floors a little bit with some plywood, but it was definitely a shop before before it was a fencing club. And yeah, I was looking for something to do because Midland has just so many activities to do down here.
I have a list of Midland activities, and it's like, wow, which one should I do today? And it's just sit at home.
So it was really hard I was like, oh, well, I could do all this other stuff, or I could do what I love, and that's fencing. And so I kind of sought you guys out. I don't remember. I think maybe sent a message.
Yeah, I think we messaged a little bit and got the practice schedule out and came in and started working out with us.
Yeah, and we were in the basement of theater.
Yeah, one of our fencers, we started off at, we were in a city gym, and that was kind of a nightmare. It had no heating and air at all. And it was a strange arrangement. We were lucky to have it. It was cool to have a locker room and an actual gym. I mean, I think that was probably the first, it was the biggest facility our club had ever had, and we ran classes with 30 some odd people at a time. but you wear a lot of protective gear in the sport, and so it was just devastatingly hot and miserable. And it was one of those things, we like clean floors because it helps our shoes stick and all that. And we started having problems, and one of our fencers was I think she managed the costume shop at Midland Community Theater, which has a really nice facility.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they have really nice.
They have these rooms downstairs that are set up for dance and rehearsal and all, with these nice wooden floors. And they let us come in there, and we were free for several years. And management changed and says, "All right, you guys got to pay some rent." So we paid rent for a while, and it was great. We sent people to the Nationals from that little room, and it was long enough for legal size strips, and so we had a blast in there. It was great. We had one weird incident where you guys remember, half of it was mirrors.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Big, like 8-foot mirrors on the wall. I was watching a kid stretch, and that one of those mirrors fell off and was like falling on him, and somebody grabbed it. And other than that, we were working out in another room, in a backup room, when the restrooms flooded upstairs during a big show. So we were able to call. Had nobody been in there, that place would have been underwater. That was all the drama we had facility wise, which is monumental for a fencing club. We're a free club. I mean, or a nonprofit club. We pay dues. We have to pay national dues for insurance and a little bit to the club, and ran a long time, man. We had a good time. I had to retire last season. My hip is completely blown out, and it's not something you can replace. It can be scoped and put together, but I got to wait a while for that. But we had quite a few members sort of in and out, and the club now sort of changed hands to a school. One of the trends in fencing is it's becoming a younger sport than it used to be.
Okay.
So people are kind of moving over, and that's where we are. So, but you even competed with us.
Yeah, so I've had some of my best fencing memories were actually with this club. And I remember when we first got down here, I noticed a distinct difference between the way that Texas fencers fence and the way that Michigan fencers fence. And I don't know if it's a good thing. I don't know if it's a bad thing. It's just different. So down here, I noticed the first thing is that Texas fencers don't use their feet quite as much as Michigan fencers. And I was always brought up that footwork is key to anything for all you aspiring fencers out there.
Footwork, blade work, distance, timing.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone fences epee down here. I was primarily a foil fencer, which has a lot more rules, not just one touch. Yeah. And saber, but no one really cares about saber.
Not really. No.
They're an endangered species. So, but I kind of brought that foil fencing in as well to my epee game. And I remember the first tournament we actually went to go compete in was in Lubbock, and I think that's the Cliff Wilson.
That was the Cliff Wilson.
That was the Cliff Wilson, if I wasn't mistaken. And that was a lot of fun, and was also the first tournament that I had ever placed in.
yeah, you did well in that one. I remember.
I felt kind of bad though because, all these fencers are Texas Tech students, and I was losing like really badly against I forgot her name now, but she was an Asian fencer, and she was beating me out of the box every single time. So I had to adapt. And basically, because of footwork, blade work, by far, you could beat me in and out. But footwork, and really pushing that distance, like closing that distance fast.
Come in on the mic. There you go.
Closing that distance fast.
Nice. Was
how I felt that I could win out on this. And so I did a lot of ballistras.
Yep.
Which are,
and the jumps, the pushing, and
pushing, and just getting that blade right there and catching them far enough off guard that their point just goes straight upward.
Yep.
And I think you have a picture of it too.
I do. I'll dig those out. My fencing albums are scattered out. And you bring up a cool point about it. Is every club has its own style,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems like among a club or school or whatever, when you go fence them, like I've gone to places that have incredible fencers, but they excuse me, they're not all that up to speed on if they don't have a lot of tall people. They're not used to guys with reach, right?
Mhm.
You know, and so you can kind of take or leave that. And if they don't have a lot of older fencers, you know, older guys, we tend to fight a little different. We have to have a few more tricks because we don't have the speed and all that. So yeah, I noticed when I went to nationals, a lot of the foreign fencers, the footwork is as soon as you made a decision, they were like Jedis and they were gone. Like as soon as you knew it was time to do something, poof, they've just run away from you, or they're right up under your chin. So, and I've done quite a few martial arts. I did Aikido and some Chinese stuff, and then into my law enforcement career, I did Krav Maga and some others. And I'm always impressed. The thing that hooks me the most about fencing is you can take Krav Maga or anything, any practical art or any just kata art or whatever you want, Aikido, and you can't show up every day to your gym and fight full speed every time. You can't do that. You know, you're going to break wrists and bones and stuff like that. Your body can't take the punishment. So it's a slower process, in my opinion, to get really good at it. In fencing, there were days we would show up, if it was just 2 or 3, 4 or 5 of us, and we would rotate out in those things and just stay full speed as long as we could, just kind of build endurance. You get a sense where I tell every fencer, everybody knew that I would train, I would say, get ready. You're going to get some Jedi skills. And there'll be that one day where your buddy knocks the coffee cup off the table and you're looking away and you grab it. You know, you're just, you get that sense. You get that sense of the distance. You can't see the tip of the blade, but you can see the bell guard. You can see where it goes, and it does these crazy things to your reflexes. So that was my experience with it.
Yeah,
I would absolutely agree with that.
I think that what people a big misunderstanding about fencing is that it doesn't, when you're looking at it, you're like, oh, that looks really easy. That doesn't look I could do that. But then when you put on the gear and you're actually doing it, and you're like, and you've finished your first game, you know, you're just for your first point, you take off your mask and you're like, goodness.
Yeah.
I've got to sit down for a moment.
Drenched in sweat. Just like, give me a minute.
Yeah. If we got a really big class that was, you know, maybe more than our club could handle, or, you know, one instructor and, you know, if other guys are working and kind of flaky and it's too big, you ramp up your first couple of sessions, and a lot of people flake earlier. And they get in there and they don't, the people see it and they think, it's this, I don't know what they think, but they see the swords and they get a picture of it, and they have no clue how fast it is. They have no clue how what's involved. And then one of the crazy things, and my wife is an example of this. She was a track runner, and my wife is one of those people that when she shows up for a sport, she's either good at it or she's not. And very few people in this world show up at fencing and they're just good at every aspect of it, right? You get people that are great with their feet. The bullfighter guy, Jesse.
Yeah.
It's Jesse, right? Jesse had great feet, man. I mean, running from bulls, you know. But he had an advantage to that. He had good wind. He had good legs. He did some boxing, so he had some distance. The blade was a new thing to him, you know. So it took some time to do that, and so there's always something. Few people just show up and ace it. And my wife was one of those that she showed up with all this, you know, leg work and physical skill and speed, but has never put it together, and really hated that she wasn't automatically good at it like she was track.
I think the best way it was described to me was this is basically physical chess. You know, yeah, you've got to basically think 5 steps ahead of your opponent, and then you've got to make your body actually do those 5 steps.
Exactly. And it always amazed me. There are people you get on the strip with them, and you got nothing. They don't make sense. There's something about their style, especially going to a tournament and somebody you've never known, and you'll see somebody and you'll look on the list and you'll go, oh, well, this guy's, he's 48 out of 50, and I'm up here at number 7 on the seeding chart. So I should just beat this guy. And you get in there and he pops you, and you're going, how the hell did you do that?
There are people. I'm not going to name their names because I'm not giving them that satisfaction. But there are people that I have fenced at, like Cliff Wilson or the Amarillo Open, and I still kind of go back and I think through those matches, and I'm like, okay, they did this, and I have to I should have done this, or I should have done this footwork. I should have brought my blade this way. And I mean, there were a couple of those, and I think one of my last real fencing matches, and that I was there and I was down a couple of points, and I could have gone in there if I just brought that blade just a little bit higher up, and I just didn't get it there. But
you learn though.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
You still learn. I mean, you learn through all of that, and it's just like I said. I'm not giving them. I'm not saying their names, but there's one.
Initials.
What amazes me about the sport, my favorite part of it, is at our level, at the amateur level. Opens, men, women, young people, you have no idea who is about to kick your ass.
Yeah.
And I went to a veteran circuits are great. Everybody's over 40, and you get in there and the prizes are bottles of wine and stuff like that. And I've been to clubs. I won't name the clubs. I've been to clubs where we're not going to get super big into rules and technical stuff on fencing. I'll let you Google that. But in most finals, it's a 15-point bout, and first person to 15. And you fence for 3 minutes, and you get a 1-minute break. And it's kind of like boxing, where you go to your corner and your coach can come up to you. And they were doing shots on the break. Like they're doing vodka shots. And there was another club. This guy, his name was Ray Sexton III, and this guy looks like everyone's grandfather. He's well over 70 now. I wish I'd looked it up. And I was already a good fencer. I had my E. I was working on my D, and I was having some good luck. I had a good day, and I put some touches on people. And I fenced this guy in the 5 points. What am I trying to say, guys? Before the finals,
pools.
The pools. Thank you. I fenced this guy in the pools, and I never hit him. It's like, we call them the cop dreams, where you get in shootouts and the bullets roll out your barrel or they go around the guy. I could not put the blade on that dude anywhere. And he never moved, no footwork. He just stood there. And he's phenomenal. And I think after I went to the Nationals, I think he won the U.S. Nationals for the veteran class. And another time, young lady, Grace Castleman.
I remember Grace.
I think Grace I was well over 40. I was 43, 44. And I fenced Grace. And Grace is an outstanding fencer, sweet kid, really liked her. And I think I really bothered her. I don't know if maybe I hit her hard or if it's just the way that I fenced. She was always sweet to me. We always cut up when we talked, but there was just this sort of, I sensed an anxiety. And we were fencing in a tournament, I think in Lubbock. I think it was a Cliff Wilson.
Okay.
She and I were fighting for the gold medal.
Oh,
we won first and second place, and it was just the two of us. And I had her up by, I don't remember, a long way. Like there was no doubt I was going to win. Her coach, Chuck Slaughter, wonderful guy. He passed away from colon cancer. Chuck possessed a lot of the qualities in a coach and a fencer that I never, ever will have. But he talked to her. and she got my number. I was doing something that I didn't see, that she didn't see, and Chuck said, "Hey, do this." I still don't know what it was. There was no video. I have no
Yeah.
clue. And she won, and she deserved it. I mean, there was no cheating or anything else, and it was so cool. I hated to lose. I really did, man. I wanted that gold medal, but that girl won it, and she's this tiny kid,
Mm-hmm.
and here I am. You know, talk physical stuff. I was a SWAT team commander at the time. I mean, I was big, strong dude. You know, all that stuff. And this 14, 15-year-old girl cleaned my clocks. You know, that's one thing I love about the sport is this old man, this young girl. You get on there thinking you're just some kind of tattooed badass. Nope, somebody's gonna go home. Somebody's gonna go home with bruises.
No, I think those are I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about fencing is just that unknown, but also the person who can think through the problem, the best problem solver, or just they are just getting dumb lucky, because that happens like a lot of the time but that's more of your closer matches. I think when you're trading point for point, sometimes someone can get just super lucky, but to come back from like say a 3-10 point,
That's kind of what happened to me.
that's skill. That's okay. I've got your number. I'm going to exploit this weakness. And I've been on the other end of that. And that's just like, what am I doing? And you try to, no matter what you do, no matter how you change how you're fencing, that person has, if they have your number, they have your number.
I was fencing one time, and I can't remember who it was. I know she was an A at the time, and it was the first tournament I went to. And it was in the pool, so we were going to 5, and we had gone up, and it was just kind of a trade-off for points where I would get one, she would get one, I would get one, she would get one. We ended up going 4-4, and then we double touched and ended up at 5-5, so they reset it, and we did it again, and they reset it, and we were going again, and
I remember that.
I know she was hurt at the time, and I know that's why I was doing as well as I was, but she turned just slightly whenever I went in, because I guess I was coming in at that same attack, and she turned just slightly and had her arm out, and it just hit me right, I think it was right on the arm,
and it laid flat on her. Yeah.
And that was it for her. But I know that was probably, the best fencing match that I've ever really done, and it was just in a nothing pool, just on a day one of like a 2-day tournament or something like that.
The blind luck thing. My problem it is like when I fenced that young lady, and the quality that her coach had that I didn't as a fencer or as a coach is I can't. There are just certain things I can't see in the speed and that. You compare it to chess, and one of the things in chess you do is you make the guy waste a turn, and thereby it's like giving you 2 turns. And a good fencer can do that, and a great fencer can take 2 or 3 away from you. And so and it's amazing all the parallels between fencing and gunfighting that there are out there, and it's crazy what that does. If you're fighting, if you're doing anything like I'd already said. But I fenced a Russian in the nationals, and this guy, I don't know how to explain it. He fenced like a Russian, but the guy was amazing. I fenced him in the pools, and I hit him hard. He just screwed up. I mean, he ran onto my blade. And I walked back to my line thinking, I don't know what I just did, but I'm going to try to do it again. And I did it again, and he was fleshing, which is like a running attack.
Yeah.
And I popped him again. And then I thought, this guy just looks like he knows what he's doing, so I'm going to do something different. And I have no idea what I did. The guy was so fast. I was doing the equivalent of somebody takes a swing and you just throw your hands up so you don't get hit. You just duck into your stance, because you have no idea. Maybe you'll put that shoulder up or something. And I hit the dude again. And I heard what was probably profanity in Russian. And the guy collected himself and beat me 5-3 right there. I never touched him again. That guy was 6th in the nation.
Wow.
He was 6 and I was like 52 when it was all over. So that dude, you know, and that's one of those things. There was something I was doing, some magic, and whatever I was doing, you know, my reach, my who knows? Because I'm not a great fencer. I'm okay fencer, but something just jujued that day that I was able to pop that dude.
Cool. I hate your reach. And you're good.
Well, he's super tall.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're a good, like, I think maybe a foot and a half taller than I am. And I remember the first couple of, because, you know, whenever we started fencing, it was just footwork. And then once we got into that blade work and everything, I remember it's like, okay, there, you know, I'm going to go and fence and just try to get my arm out. And you were just right there.
Yeah.
And right in my, you know, in that, and then you go home and take off all the fencing gear, take off, you know, your sweater and everything, and just bruises.
Look like a rock star junkie with all the,
So I hated fencing you because of that reach that you have, and I just could never figure out quite the right way to kind of get around it. I would get lucky a couple of times.
Well, here's I heard Mike Tyson talk about this similar thing. When you have something, when you've got something in the bag, that you got to be careful because there's somebody that can get around it. In other words, I have my reach.
Yeah.
And reach is great. It's great if the other person makes a mistake. And then they figure out all they have to do is get under that.
Yeah, and I think
and that was the Achilles heel, because if your footwork is weak, as mine typically was, and if you're using reach, you're kind of leaning forward, you know, just like when you see boxers or MMA guys put their feet together. You know they're screwed, and you can't get away, and those little guys can get right up under you and pop you in the chin.
Well, I think that's what I ended up really doing at some point. I just kind of figured out, you know, I have to get underneath that blade. I have to get up close to him in order to hit him, and then I just started rushing you pretty much.
Yeah, you started once you started crushing into him. You showed up one day and just absolutely crushed me to the back of the line, and it was weird. It was like you know when you go to pet an old lady's poodle. And the dog goes off and grabs you by the neck. Yeah. It was like that. It was like Mike's style changed overnight.
I do remember though, and I don't know if you remember this. The first time I beat you, I think it was by maybe 1 point, 1 or 2 points, and you know I was all excited about it. I was like, oh yeah, finally beat
and it was a 15.
Yeah. And I went home that day, and then a friend called me. I was like, hey, let's go hang out. Went and hung out with them, and we were at a park, and a cop came up to me and stopped me and started questioning me. And then the next time I beat you, I think the same thing happened. I got stopped by a cop on the way home or something, and I was like, what's going on? I don't know what the deal is. And so I mentioned it to you, and you were just like, yeah, don't beat me again then, and you won't have that problem.
Yeah, I was right. I made a phone call. Are we still rolling? I see weird.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, cool.
I think I see red.
All right, cool. The red record right in the middle. I'm going to get paranoid. I do remember that. And I remember the night that Mike beat me, and you were definitely tuned in that day. There's something about it, and I love it. You know, somebody you've trained, and you don't know what to say to people sometimes. You know, they tell you, hey coach, what am I doing wrong? And you watch them, and you're okay. Well, you're doing what I'm trained and what you're trained, but it's not working for you. And then they just pull out that rabbit and kick your ass. It's great.
The one thing that Texas fencers down here that I noticed go for a lot was, especially in epee, so it's the first one to touch, is that y'all go for the shoulder, the closest shoulder.
Yeah, that was something I taught my club, is hit what's close to you.
Or the arm here. The way that I was taught in Michigan is that there's that sweet spot between the bell guard and right here.
Yeah.
And I was surprised because I got down here and no one was going for that.
Yeah.
So when we went to the Cliff Wilson, I exploited that to the max. Like I would just circle their bell guard, and as soon as they started to lunge, I just stab.
Now I know what you were doing, and I was like, now I can see.
Oh no, I've revealed all my secrets.
One of the reasons that happened in our club was because I was the coach, and I can't see the bottom of your hand. It's just not there to me because, I'd have to reach way down. It's sort of the left and right hand boxer analogy.
No, it's sort of like that spot is sort of like in the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark, like when he puts the staff with the head like
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
spot, and then it just hits that sweet spot, and all of a sudden he can see
Yeah,
like
yeah.
like exactly where he needs to go, and when that little like piece just comes out just a little bit, you're just like, oh, I'm going for it, and you go for it, and if the light goes, and you're like, yes. If it doesn't, then you're retreating because you're
Yeah.
like, oh, he's about to get me.
And that's one of the reasons I think you don't see fencing more popular anywhere. I mean, it's big in some places. You can hear things like this. They're hard to picture.
Mm-hmm.
They're hard to see if you're fencing. They're
Mhm.
impossible to see if you're watching it.
Yes. Oh, there's no way that you'd be
No.
able to see that.
Yeah, you just I watched the when I was at Nationals, I watched the women's veterans 70s. This is two grandmothers going at it, and I couldn't have beat either one of them.
Mhm.
They were it was the gold medal bout. They were
Mhm.
amazing. I mean, they look like they ought to be at a crochet club, and they
Mhm.
are just positively kicking ass. And I was watching it, and I hear these two guys talking, and one guy, oh, she's doing blah blah, she's doing that. I couldn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not some the jerk fencer in a club. I'm looking at going, I can't see that.
I don't. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, even the judges, they're not trained to be looking for things. They're trained to be listening for the action.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you get a lot from that, from what you hear.
Mm-hmm.
You get a lot from what you feel. The pressures and stuff you feel in
Sure.
the blade, because there's so much of it moving, and you tell which side of the blade they're on. And what we used to do, the exercises where you close your eyes.
Yeah.
Some of
Mhm.
some of the stuff they taught me at coach school, but that's part of it. I honestly think the other problem is you don't see faces a whole lot. You don't see a
okay.
lot of faces.
Uh-huh.
You don't see a lot of names. Your name's on your leg and on your back.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's illegal to put anything else anywhere. And the reason everything's white is, and it has to be white, is so that the referees can see the blades and where they hit and where they're passing.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't, it's not like, rugby where you can have the big AIG logo across your chest. And when you see Olympics and nationals, they had banners and stuff everywhere, but that's it. There's no advertising. There's not a whole lot of personal stuff. There's not. I mean, you see these two guys dressed like beekeepers kicking each other's ass with a hanger, and then it's over.
You got your McDonald's logo.
Yeah, I was
your
gonna
Yeah.
say I want to
King,
see.
you
I
got your
want to start
Sonic,
seeing
yeah.
that now. I want to start seeing like
Wonder
NASCAR.
Bread.
Like
Yeah, I think that's one of the deals with the popularity. It is getting more popular, and I credit a lot of that to the internet,
Mhm.
Yeah.
because I learned about the club in Midland through the newspaper, like actual
Mhm.
print, and I thought I have always been curious about that.
Mhm.
I got to try this. And of course, now, man, you can get on, Reddit, fencing.net, anything else, and look at it and learn about it. And you watch the videos and you go, oh, wow, I see this. And the gear is so much cheaper than it used to be.
Oh, I should get back
Yeah.
into fencing then.
Yeah. I mean, the gear used to be just incredible. It's all European made. And of course, now
Yeah.
you have decent Chinese gear. You have decent Chinese gear distributors.
Mhm.
And I mean, our clubs use Chinese gear. It worked fine. As you get up there, you start spending more money. And, I
Sure.
was buying the really expensive British or Russian blades or whatever. They're just fantastic. Those are both Ukrainian-made blades that are, if you compared it to what the Italian stuff, French stuff cost in the
Mhm.
80s, it's wow. I
Mm.
mean, one blade was a birthday for me when I was 12 because that was expensive, and it's not that bad. I think the increasing popularity of youth sport is a big one
Yeah.
that happened. But at the same time, what's bringing it down? I don't know. I still think the spectator thing is a lot of it.
Well, I also think that it's really on the sport itself because, I mean, there can be so many different people who are winning these tournaments. Like, there are usually not just one single person who's like just dominating. And I think that when you look at sports like football or basketball or even baseball, you have your heroes,
Yeah.
and the only hero that I know of in fencing are I don't even know her name, but the South Korean girl that ended up winning
Oh yeah.
like 2 Summer Olympics ago, I
There we
think.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, see,
Uh,
see exactly.
well,
think
and
there's
I,
like a-
Mariel Zagunas,
Yeah.
No,
is
that's the
one
other
of them.
one.
But Mariel, I mean, she's an astounding athlete, but she has a big public presence.
Mhm.
So you're just kind of into her because she's such a cool person. We
Yeah.
all watched her through the Olympics, and then she got
Mhm.
married and all
Mhm.
that. We're all watching that engrossed.
Yeah.
And Seth, oh my God, there it went. I'm so ashamed I forgot his
No.
last. I've met him.
Oh,
Cool guy, big baby face guy, huge guy.
Sorry, Seth.
Amazing,
sorry.
amazing fencer,
Seth, if
amazing
you're watching
style.
this.
Yeah, man, I'm sorry. You don't remember meeting me at nationals. But you got your heroes, but they're winners, they're Olympians, they're A-rated fencers and all that. But you tend to follow them just because of the kind of person they are. Or you've met them, or you've
Mhm.
been to their sal, or taken lessons from
Sure.
them or whatever. So Andrea Lagan was one of my coaches, and she was way up there for years. And she's South African,
Mhm.
I think, or Australian. No, New Zealand. She's Kiwi. Yeah,
Mhm.
she's from New
Oh,
Zealand.
don't get that mixed up.
Yeah. You don't want to do that. I'm just having a little. But that was one of the cool things that's gone now is if you wanted to be a fencing coach, you could go to Coaches College that was located. It was done by the USA Fencing
Mhm.
at the U.S. Olympic Training Center.
Wow.
And I did like 3 sessions there. And it was absolutely phenomenal because I didn't know what to expect. I had never toured it. I had heard about it. And you go and you stay in the dorms and you train in their gyms and you eat in the Olympians cafeteria, and it is a phenomenal experience. It's kind of surreal when you're in here working out and it's a bunch of coaches. We're not and we're people from all over the US and all over the world, and you're in here working out. We had 3 sessions a day, so they just drove us into the ground, and they were leading tours through there. So you're working out and all sweaty, and you're like, hey kids, how's it going? But
Can you imagine what those kids are thinking? They're like, "Oh, those are the future Olympian athletes that are training."
oh wow, that guy's fat. Yeah.
Like, how is he? Is he like just gonna slim down by the Olympics or?
Yeah. It was on the top 5 of my fencing. Oh man, I got to tell a war story about that. They when you get there, they assign you to dorms, and they're kind of Spartan, but
Mhm.
you're Olympiads, so
Uh-huh.
that's who stays there is your
Sure.
Olympiads. So it's you sleep there, and communal bathroom down the hall and all that. It's like kind of like a college dorm, older dorm. And we at the end of the sessions, you had a written test and you had a practical test, and they would draw literally out of a fencing mask, out of the hat,
Mhm.
an exercise that you would have to do with your student,
Mhm.
and you would be graded on it and all that. So there's a lot of pressure, and they ask you questions, and they don't make it easy at all.
Mhm.
And I was studying with my roommate, who's the only 2 Texans, and they put us together. That was intentional. His name was Chuck, and Chuck and I, not Coach Chuck, our coach Chuck that passed away, but a different guy. And we were studying, and the women's archery team came in. And you've always heard about the levels of promiscuity and
Mhm.
interesting stuff that goes on with Olympic athletes. Chuck and I were in there. We had the door open just for air, and we're got our books cracked, and we're pencil fencing,
Oh.
right? Where you're going. Okay,
Sure.
you do this, but it's 4th period, blah, 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 and we're talking. And these girls came in from their workout, and they laid these amazing bows, these compound
Yeah.
bows that God only knows what they cost, with all the crazy shit hanging off them, leaned them up outside and stripped down to their underwear and tossed all their uniforms in a basket, and they took it down to the laundry, and they ran around their underwear the rest of the evening. And that was just what happened.
You weren't complaining.
No. And they're like, hey, one of them comes up and says, hey, are you guys using this last dryer over there? Do you know if it's broken or what? And I'm going, no. no, we're cool. We're done.
No.
All my crap's dirty, and I'm going to be graded on how clean it is tomorrow. But you know what? You go right ahead. So, yeah. But all that interesting stuff aside, that was an amazing place, and I learned a lot. And there were I got to see a camp with up and coming like future Olympic athletes that were fencers. So we're talking kids, little dudes, and they were phenomenal. It was just almost an alien thing to watch. So,
yeah.
The only thing that I can think of that comes close to that is I once saw a 4-year-old Asian kid play the piano like perfectly. Like this was just some big old piano piece, and he was just like, it was really fast, and he was just hitting every note just like perfect, like child prodigy type thing. And I just sat there and was like, I can't learn piano now because it's been ruined for me.
Well, let me tell you, I once dropped some toast on the ground and the butter was up on. So.
Oh man, that's that next level stuff right there.
Yeah, it's what amazes me is the Michael Phelps and all these LeBron James and these people that are absolute aliens. What happened if they just missed out on that sport? Like Michael Phelps, I don't think would be a great fencer.
No.
You know, LeBron James probably wouldn't be an outstanding martial artist. You know, maybe not. There's just something amazing about their brain, because you guys know fencing is more about your brain than about your body. I mean, anybody, it doesn't take superhuman strength to do any of that. It's an edge if you're really fast, or an edge if you're tall or whatever. But I saw these kids that were gymnasts, and they were 10, 12 years old. These were superhuman people. These kids looked like they were just perfect, you know, the abs and the muscles and all that stuff, and they're tiny. They're just these miniature monsters. and watching these guys, you know, do pull-ups with their fingers and stuff like that. And what if that kid had never had an opportunity to see what gymnastics was about?
Right.
You know, if he lived in a place that didn't have it, or parents, and that's why it makes me wonder how many people have missed their calling just because there wasn't something like that.
Yeah.
I would say too many.
Yeah, too many.
Like there are definitely aliens living among us, and I don't mean like, you know, the extraterrestrial kind. That's a different episode, I think.
Yeah. It's a thing about that sport, about any sport. You know, when you watch football, when you watch baseball, when you watch the team sports, and even into some individual sports and stuff you played at amateur levels in grade school, there are turnarounds, there are different things happening. Fencing seems to be the one for me with the absolute most unexpected turnarounds. And the days that I show up and I beat people I had absolutely no business beating. And the days I was sent home from the pools just because nothing was working in my head. That's the thing about being an athlete, and it's really kind of metaphrased and blown up huge in fencing, I think.
Well, what's it in golfing terms? They call it, was it the shanks? Where you can golf perfect, you can be perfect in like practice, and then one day you can just be hitting nothing but slices. Like, I don't even play golf, but I've heard of this, and you can correct for it all you want, but if it's not your day on, it's not your day on, and there's not a thing that you can do about it.
Well, go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna kind of just mirror that. So,
what sets people apart, you know, like music and things. Tim Kreitz, that I play with, Tim's one of those guys that's just never off. You know, he's been a pro musician. He gets on the stage, he's never off. I can't hit a home run every night. The pros, the people that really do, can. And I've shot professionally in competition, and I held when I was at my peak an above average level. You know, and that's what I was paid to do. And there's something to it. And I'm kind of an alien in shooting. There are things that I feel in the action. I don't have to think about it. But everything else, fencing and music and things where I'm truly an amateur, I'm not turned on. I'm not switched on all the time. And I remember when I went to go to the nationals, I realized I had to fence in I think it was a regional. And for veteran, you didn't have to win anything. You just had to have a pulse at the end of the day, right? And so the regional was in Amarillo, and there was only one. That was the closest one, and I had 2 shows that weekend. I had 2 road shows, and I had my buddy Cliff picked me up, and I slept in the back seat of his crew cab truck, and he drove me to Amarillo, and I fenced the tournament. And I came back, and I didn't have to be switched on, and I was up against a lot of better fencers, and I fenced like crap. It was tough. I mean, I just couldn't, even though I wanted to. I thought I'd get there, and I have that little bit of spirit, like, this would be the time to really get here and really pull out the rabbit and really kick somebody's ass. Not a chance. It didn't even come close. So, but the other guys, I had an honor of talking to a pro baseball player one time who was working on his master's degree or something like that, and he was having to ride out patrol cars with cops for whatever he was writing, and I felt bad because I hadn't watched baseball in 100 years, but he was a really nice kid, and we talked about it, and that guy was telling me about how they're hungover or drunk, or they partied all night, or they how little they slept, and those guys just get out there and tear it up.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, man, you really are an alien if that's how you are.
And there's another name that we call those guys, and that's jerks.
Yeah.
Jerks, yeah.
That's the truth. There's a kid, his name's Lucas Scrimshire. Do y'all remember that name?
No,
Lucas
I
is a
remember
pentathlete. He was
Lucas.
in the last Olympics, and he was a student at Texas Tech.
Okay.
And I showed up to fence, and he showed up. We were setting up next to each other, didn't know each other. And we just struck up a conversation, and he didn't have any socks. He didn't have fencing socks, which you will not be allowed to fence unless you have legal socks.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a pair of their, this is when we went to our team socks, we got the colored socks.
Yeah.
And I had a pair of white ones in there that were old and beat up, but they were clean.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, here you go, kid. Here, kid, catch.
Yeah,
Like that. And that dude, I had to fence him, and he absolutely kicked my ass. And this kid had showed up with crap gear. He didn't know was going to pass inspection and all. But he was a pentathlete, which they fenced to one touch.
Yeah.
So you talk about people that don't take risks. I mean, when you go in there and you got 15 points, I'll throw some shit at this guy and see if it sticks. Whoa, that sucked. I'll try something else. And at one point, that guy just destroyed all hope in my brain. I thought, you know what? If he's coming at me, he sees shit I don't, and I'm done. Just make the face and turn away because it's going to hurt.
Well, you know what the moral of the story is in that?
Don't loan him socks.
Don't loan your socks to pentathletes.
Yeah.
Don't loan your socks to anybody.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so that's my big accomplishment as a coach and a fencer. That guy in the Olympics, I loaned him some socks. So
did he wear the same socks to the Olympics?
I seriously doubt it. I would imagine he was several sponsors deep.
Oh, man.
This was when did the Nike Balestra, the green shoes, come out?
Oh
no, it was after that.
You were asking the
you were
wrong
asking
person.
the wrong person.
Everybody had the Nike Balestra when they were out. So.
I shop for my shoes at Kohl's and Puma when there's a clearance sale.
Let me tell you about my last pair of shoes. I wore them until the sole literally fell off of it.
Yeah.
So
I lost. I was just beat to death in the pools by a kid whose shoes were duct taped together. He was a college student. You tell they were really expensive shoes at one time. I did the expensive fencing shoes, and they were okay. I wore indoor soccer shoes most of the time. So
yeah, that's anyone who's fenced. That's the workaround for that is the indoor soccer.
Yeah, they're
shoes.
great, man. Nice gummy soles. But it's one thing. I was down in Mexico, and I was talking to a guy that he was a soccer star, right? He's a cool kid, young kid. He was in his 30s at the time, but he was talking about the towns had their own soccer teams.
Oh,
and then he also worked part time for a resort, and the resorts had soccer teams, and they would meet in the park, and Grand Bay would fight, whatever the Hilton. I don't remember all the names. and or play football, soccer against them. And I think it just sucks we don't have more of that here. That's one of the things about the fencing club. It's cool being an 8 to 5, just regular jack off
Sure.
and going and going, hey man, I'm gonna see Mike and Eric tonight, and we're gonna go put on, our team colors and go up to Lubbock and throw some
Right,
people
yeah.
around and have a good time. I miss that. I miss that from the retirement. But where else do you don't see, you get some bowling and a few other things, maybe a company softball team. We're just not huge on amateur sports here.
No, it's like you have high school football, and that's about it for
Yeah.
sports.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's the thing to do is like if you're not into, I heard that if you're not into basically high school or lower sports, then you're going to be pretty bored out here.
Yeah. And we had trouble because in fencing, people were wanting to send kids, and that was a lot of it. And I was not ready to run a kids club because the insurance and all that was much more. And because I wanted to be a coach, and I wanted to coach people, and I wanted to fence, and I wanted to compete. And we tried it. It was just tough. The kids are cool. I hated dealing with the parents.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And fencing, I think the biggest problem with it is fencing is not a 1 hour sport.
No.
When a buddy of mine was telling me, we had this conversation, and his kids were all in soccer, and he said it's a 1 hour sport. 1 hour practice, 1 hour games. He said it's quick, and when you've got a kid in there that you're trying to explain that no, you might come in on Saturday, you're not going to your first tournament in Friday after next,
Right.
And I had parents tell me, well, I think he's getting discouraged because he's not in going to tournaments with you guys, and like he's not even finished with the basic class yet. He has no gear. He's never fenced anyone. I had people wanting me to give private lessons, like just bring in one kid and teach him. Rich people come to my house. I'm like, what's he gonna fence the dog? I mean, he needs to get in a club, and so we had problems there. Fortunately, we made the decision to do 13 and up, and that was.
Oh, real quick, I do
Hit
want to
me.
ask, what was the thing that got you wanting to fence?
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one, Eric. You're the guest.
Yeah.
What?
Lay it on us.
Oh, was that for both?
Well, for both of you. It's for
lay
all
it
of
on.
us.
Okay, so the thing that really got me into fencing is that basically I was in a weird place in my life, and I had seen the sport on the Olympics, and they advertised, hey, it's a sport where you can stab people with swords. You bounce around and stab people with swords. Why wouldn't that be fun? And I found the club that I went to, that I started out at, and I really didn't have a whole lot of money to start out. And it was one of the cheapest sports as well. And I mean, it's still one of the cheapest sports when it comes to gear and everything. It's a one-time, purchase, and then you're good unless you break a blade. But it was a sport where you could use your mind and you could just really lose yourself. Like Matt was saying, it's not a 1 hour sport. Like I would spend 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day after my work until basically the place closed down, practicing. And that's the only reason why I got as decent as I did in such a short amount of time, because I was putting in the time to go there. And it was just a way for me to just, again, lose myself and just, concentrate on bettering myself. And it put me into a much better place once I, all the way up to the point where I moved down here. So
About how old were you when you started? If you want to say, you don't have to say.
Well, that would have been back from 2011 to 2012. Okay. And how many years ago was that? 7. So that was like 26, 27, somewhere around there is when I started. So I was one of the older kids,
Right on.
that were there. Everyone else was pretty much like a homeschool group, and that they met at the club. So I was fencing these young kids who had a whole lot of stamina and were just so good. Like, it was hard to beat any of them.
Yeah.
But that's how you get better, is you fence people who are better than you.
Mm-hmm.
And, if I could get, basically, I wasn't going there to win against them. I was like, oh, I got 1 touch today. Oh, I got 3 touches the next
That's
day.
it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so it was something that I could, continuously like see improvements in myself, and it was a real confidence booster. So, and it just put me again in a much better place, both physically and mentally. So that's how I
Cool.
really got into it.
Yeah.
How about you, Mike?
When I was a kid, me and a buddy of mine, we used to like play with wooden sticks. They were broomsticks,
Right.
and we would just be outside in the backyard whacking at each other with them. And it got to the point where we were breaking these broomsticks, and then we would have to go to the metal ones, and we'd end up denting this because we were just out there just trying to.
Ouch.
Yeah, it was many fingers were smashed up, and if just to kind of do a callback to this last episode that you have, I'm big into movies.
Yeah.
And so things like Star Wars and things like The Princess Bride and other movies like that, I read one time that in order to do the lightsaber duels, they studied fencing. And so I was like, oh, well, that's cool. I want to do that. That way I can be a Jedi, and that way I can go and do all this kind of stuff. And then I want to say it was around 2012. I was watching the Olympics, and I was like, I don't know if there's anything like that around here. So I Googled it, and I ran into the club page, and then I sent you an email, and that was pretty much
There are
it.
a bunch of weirdos doing it. That Star Wars thing got me into it.
Oh, yeah.
It was on I can't remember what show I saw it on, but they said, he'd studied fencing for that, and I had seen it before on the Olympics, and when we got cable in the late 70s, early 80s, and we started seeing more weird sports and stuff, they would run different things, and there were a couple of shows dedicated to unusual sports, and I saw that. And then when the article came out in the newspaper, well, holy hell, this is real. This is this is cool. And I had to go to the public library for books on it. And then my parents took me to a bookstore. Those are not too many of those. And I got a book. I forgot the guy's name. He's still relevant as a coach and teacher, and started reading up on that. And that's when I started figuring out the rules. And it had a very linear, logical thing that fit in my head. And I wasn't in the greatest shape. I didn't really dig football. I played some basketball and baseball, and sort of gave up. When I got back into it later after the hiatus from my career, I wanted something. I wanted to go out and break a sweat, just having fun, not worrying about, hey, I may need this on the streets, or, man, if I don't get this right, it could get me killed, or all that crap. But just to show up and have a good time and do it. And then I wound up kind of good at it after a while, and made a lot of good friends like you guys. How many of us are hanging out because of that club?
Right.
Yeah.
There were a bunch of us. And I loved, getting together, going to tournaments, and following them, looking at everybody's stats and seeing where they are. I looked them up early before the thing. I couldn't even remember my rating, and I looked it up, and I truly do miss it. I miss everything about it, and wish I could still do it, but it's a lot the same as you.
Well, real quick too, the on the very first one that you posted, your intro, you showed that picture I did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's right up there.
Yeah, and that was from that first tournament that we all went to.
Yeah, I'm gonna show. In fact, I will run I'll show the pictures from that tournament, and also the picture down there. I'll show it. If you guys remember Macy Slagle.
That's the one.
Yeah, Macy Slagle.
Yeah.
She passed away recently.
Did she really?
She sure did.
Oh, man.
Bless her heart,
Wow.
sweet kid. She's also jiu-jitsu too, which showed in her fencing.
Yeah.
There was a lot. My wife did jiu-jitsu as well, and you could tell they just have a squareness to them
and an intensity.
Yeah, and
like
an intensity
burning in their eyes, and you're just like, oh, I hope I
But-
make it through this.
People would ask me, hey, what kind of practicality does that have? I'll tell you, man, the Jedi speed, that sense of it helped me. It helped me on the streets. It improved my focus and because you can't follow anything. That's the one kind of Zen thing about fencing that really appealed to me. You cannot look. You can't focus just on the guy's center. You can't focus on their feet. You can't focus on the bell guard or the blade. You just got to sit back and sort of enjoy the movie and feel.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain this. It's a feel in a sense that carries to everything. And it was, I would be on the streets with a guy and I can watch their hands and kind of have a sense of what's going on around and behind. Yeah. And then, like I said, the simple stuff, the coffee cup analogy, just snatching the coffee cup. You get so tuned in to seeing what's around you.
Yeah.
During practice, that's where you're watching. That's where you're building those skills. And then when you get there, like you said, you just kind of enjoy the ride and you just rely on that just instinct that you've been working on.
Yeah. And you get hurt.
Yeah.
Oh, you get hurt.
That's the other thing. People, all that protective gear, you ever get knocked out?
No.
Knocked out.
No, can't say that I'd have.
Yeah, I got my bell rung. I got hit in the chin. And
right up through the, like, did
no,
it
was a
go
mask
underneath
fleshed into me.
Oh, man.
And
Fleshed.
their mask hit mine right in the chin, and I have a glass jaw. So, yeah.
Note to
And,
self.
yeah. Of course, the hip thing, and you're going to pull growing muscles and like that. Just wondering. I know guys that was blinded.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was intentional. They went up under his mask with the point, gouged him, and he also had his same guy had his back broken. He fell off the pedestal. Big what do you call it? The big elevated strips. He fell off one of those. And he said it was in Mexico. And he said, I guess they thought it was a bullfight because they grabbed me and threw me back up there, and it re-injured his back.
Oh,
so.
We're trying to promote the sport now.
Yeah.
I just want to say that
I've never. The only time people say, "Man, well, what were those?" I hear those blades will break and they'll cut you. I've had, I don't know how many blades broken on me. I don't know how many I've broken on other people. The only time I had one cut is you'll hit somebody and your blade will bend, like it'll bend off. And so you'll straighten it. And I liked a certain curve. So I was always walking back, you see people do that, sort of a nervous tick. And I was bending that blade out, and it snapped and laid my thumb open.
Oh, God.
And I think Mike hit me. Somebody broke a blade and hit me in the shin. And I had white moisture wicking socks. And it was a scratch which looked like about a .45 caliber gunshot wound when it was done. It was scary, but because the
blood has moisture, so it just kind of wicked it right up into the sock.
It did. It's crazy.
But the sport is safer than statistically, it is safer than bowling and scuba diving.
Yep,
it's safer than what we just made it sound like.
It is. Yeah. It is.
But much more fun than scuba diving and bowling.
Yeah, so. Yeah, and I would have said that had I not been able to drink and fence at a couple of vet tournaments like bowling, but that's cool. Well, good guys, I really enjoyed it, and I hope everybody learned something about fencing. And we're gonna put up some cool pictures, and we'll do another one, man. We'll have to narrate the next Olympics or something. That was fun.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun.
This is listening to. Hey man, we're gonna have you back, especially if you bring food. Yeah. So that helps.
I'll make something different this time. Yeah.
You don't have to make anything different, man. Korean barbecue, that rocks, man. But we really appreciate it, guys. I thank you guys for coming in. It's so good to sit and talk fencing again and tell the war stories. And I hope everybody enjoys it. You may have to go back and Google some of the terms and all, but it was a blast.
Especially fleshing.
Flesh. FLECHE. Yeah, it's when you got nothing else in the bag, you hold the blade out and just run at them.
I hated that when people did it. So
that's where you always get hurt.
Yeah.
Cheers, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing everybody back.